Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews. I'm your host, Matt Speece, and today we are looking at Night of the Creeps, released in 1986. Night of the Creeps stars Jason Lively, Steve Marshall, Tom Atkins, Jill Whitlow, Alan Kayser, John J. York, Suzanne Snyder, Wally Taylor, Bruce Solomon, J. Arlen Jones, Elizabeth Alda, Robert Kino, David Paymer, David Oliver, Dick Miller, Shane Black, Robert Kurtzman, and Howard Berger. Night of the Creeps was directed by Fred Dekker. Now, this film is a love letter to B-movie horror films and sci-fi films. Fred Dekker wrote this with so many references to many of the different cliches in the B-movie horror films. It's a combination of a slasher with alien elements thrown in, and as well as zombie elements. And he was so much of a fan of horror films in general that most of the names of the characters in this are named after horror movie filmmakers. For instance, our lead character's name is Chris Romero, and he's named after George A. Romero. Our other character, his best friend, is named after two legendary horror filmmakers. And his character's name is James Carpenter Hooper, named after John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper. Our main detective character is named Ray Cameron, and he's named after James Cameron. Our main female in this is named Cynthia Cronenberg, named after David Cronenberg. As well as some of the police officers and characters around some of these characters. You have a Detective Landis, named after John Landis. You have a Sergeant Raimi, named after Sam Raimi. You have an Officer Craven, named after Wes Craven. You have an Officer Bava, named after Mario Bava. You have a Mr. Miner, named after Steve Miner. I mean, this is definitely a tribute to those kind of films that made them famous. Our two lead characters in this are Chris Romero, played by Jason Lively, and James Carpenter Hooper, who's nicknamed JC, played by Steve Marshall. Now, a year before this movie was made, Jason Lively replaced Anthony Michael Hall in European Vacation. And while his performance in that film left a lot to be desired, in Night of the Creeps, he is very likable and very he's awkward because he's played as a sort of him and JC are played as more of the nerdy characters, but they are likable. Both of them are. They got really good chemistry together, and they're just really well played. Jason Lively's character of Chris is he's got a big crush on Jill Whitlow's character of Cynthia Cronenberg. He really wants to be with her, but like most nerdy guys, they're not thinking that they even have a chance with this hot girl. But she's dating this complete dick sorority guy, Alan Kayser's Brad. And Brad and the rest of his sorority brethren ends up telling Chris and JC that in order to get into the sorority, they need to steal a medical cadaver from the university's medical center. And this is where everything goes to hell for these characters, because in that place they find a frozen medical cadaver and inadvertently release it from its stasis. And this is no ordinary medical cadaver. This was a medical cadaver that back in 1959 was possessed by this alien slug that has now embedded into its brain, and now it will send those slugs out through its mouth to possess other people. A person that has these slugs in them become completely mindless, undead zombies. Basically, the alien slug kills the person instantly and turns them into an undead zombie creature. Yeah, Fred Dekker definitely took a lot of inspiration from the 50s sci-fi kind of films and stuff in this film here, and plus also George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. That's why I wanted to review that movie before I did this one. But yeah, the medical cadaver that is frozen wakes up and ends up, these slugs are free and begin possessing people who spread the slugs to other people. And before we know it, we have an all-out zombie outbreak. These zombies are different than the zombies in other films simply because they are slug-based zombies that will infect other people, not by biting them, but by shooting out this slug, and it goes in through someone's mouth and possesses them. This film also stars Tom Atkins as Detective Ray Cameron, and he is just a joy to watch in this thing. He is just loving this script. You can tell he is just eating up the great dialogue that Fred Dekker has written for him.
Thrill me.
Detective Cameron?
No, Bozo the Clown.
We had a call from University Med Center. Some experimental lab has been broken into.
And every time he's on screen, you love his character. He is just so cool. And he's a troubled and sad character, really, but he hides that with his nonchalant, cavalier attitude that he has as a character. He always walks into a scene.
Detective Cameron?
No, Bullwinkle Moose. Thrill me.
Unusual pallor to the complexion. What's left of it? Is that body you were looking for, Detective?
Thrill me. Well. It isn't Spanky and Alfalfa. Seems Mr. Miner here is the night janitor down at the University Med Center. Says he saw you guys running out of there last night. 40 miles an hour. Screaming like banshees. Care to comment?
It's just, I'm not a smoker and I don't like smoking, but the way he does it, it's cool. It is cool. But there's other actors that played in this that make appearances throughout it that are recognizable. They might not be big stars or anything, but you might have recognized them in other stuff. John J. York, after this film, ended up playing in a really cool, short-lived television series alongside Chuck Connors called Werewolf. And I really loved that series back in the day. I was really pissed when they canceled it. But yeah, John J. York played the main character in that, and in this he's playing one of the dick sorority members, Todd, who's a friend of Alan Kazer's Brad.
Hey, Cunningham, where's Brad, man?
I think he's bagging the formal action. I think Cindy blew him off.
Oh, bogus, man. He must be bummed.
Really?
You have David Paymer plays a character named Hollister. He's one of the medical center's main guys.
Oh my God.
And you have most likely seen him in a lot of stuff. He's a very good character actor. And then, of course, you have the always memorable, always great Dick Miller.
You need your basic flamethrower.
Flamethrower? Flamethrower?
Yeah.
Flamethrower? Jesus. What's the matter? The old snub nose ain't good enough for you anymore?
Dick Miller playing the character of Walt in this.
If you just let me have the requisition.
I don't have a requisition form, is the thing.
You don't? Well, geez. To tell you the truth, Ray, that could be a little problem.
Yeah. There could be a little problem.
Then you have a short little cameo by a writer and filmmaker later on his own right, Shane Black. He plays a cop in this. And of course, the special effects duo of Robert Kurtzman and Howard Berger ends up playing beta zombies in this film.
I got good news and bad news, girls. The good news is your dates are here.
What's the bad news?
They're dead.
And at the time, they were working on these special effects in this film, so they were doing these little cameos in here. But yeah, this film is just a fun film, and it's well played, well executed. Fred Decker is unbelievable as far as his writing and his directing in this thing. He knew exactly what he wanted, and that's why he wanted to direct it himself. And he chose to do that. And it is an amazing achievement in film, even though when it released to the theaters, it was a box office flop. But more recently, it has gained a cult following and has become really popular. And I'm happy with that, because I wish the film could have released back in the day and been the success it deserved to be. It was really ahead of its time. It's one of those films that it really does pay homage to all these other things, but most people back when the film was released probably just didn't get it. They didn't understand it. They didn't. None of the stuff made sense to them because they weren't catching the references, apparently. But later on, whenever it released on cable and everything, all the people that it related to, and they caught the references and they fell in love with it, just like myself. But yes, Night of the Creeps. Well-made film. I give this one, my rating on this film is a 9.0. out of 10. This film is practically almost a perfect film. There's only a few little moments where I didn't like it. I didn't like either one of the endings to the film. There is the ending that's in the theatrical cut, and then there's an alternate ending. I don't like either one of them. The original ending, in the theatrical version, ends with Joe Whitlow's character, who we fall in love with in this film. She is so well played. She plays Cynthia so well that you love her, you know. So when this possessed dog comes up to her in the final moments of the film, and you already know it's a possessed dog because it's the reason a lot of the frat brothers later on in the movie got possessed. And the dog comes up to her, she reaches down to pet it. Hinting that poor Cynthia just died and became possessed. It's a hollow, shitty ending, in my opinion. As is the other one where Detective Ray Cameron blows himself up, kills himself to kill off all the slugs that were in the house after him. And then later on they show the police coming up and everything to the fire. Toward this cemetery, signifying that, oh well, it's starting over again. You know, so either way, the ending ends with a setup for a cliffhanger or some shit, you know. And I just wish it could have just ended with Jason Lively's Chris and Joe Whitlow's Cynthia just save the day. Detective Cameron has given his life to save people, and that's it. But yeah, neither one of the endings, I didn't like them. But other than that, that's why it's a 9 instead of a 10. I would have given it a 10 had it not been for the ending. But what do you think of Night of the Creeps? Do you like this movie? Did you enjoy this movie? Have you ever seen this movie? Let me know in the comments down below. And as usual, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, because it really does help this channel out a lot. And yes, this is a continuation of the 80s reviews I've been doing, and it's not finished. There's still more to come. So, I hope you will stay with me for these next few reviews. Thanks for watching.